on my supplements, I take supplements, and those supplements have around, I think, 600 IUs of vitamin D3 in them.
Yes, yeah.
So let's talk about the amounts and what is the optimum amount, what is it too low, what is too much, which countries, which kind of people, all kind of stuff. Let's go into that.
Right. Okay, so you're saying 600 IU. And so that's actually one of the recommended amounts. If you look all over the world, you look at different guidelines, the average is 600 to 800 IU. Now, if you are exposed to sunlight and if you go outside every day, and I have to add here that we are living on a fairly southern latitude, which is very advantageous for vitamin D production. Not all people live on such a southern latitude.
Right.
So if you live in northern Europe or the Canada, for example, or the northern part of the United States, it's like you need a little bit more sunlight. We don't need a lot of sunlight here, so you should be fine here because you go out in the sun every day, like for a short time,
and get sunburned.
That's a thing we need to talk about as well. Yeah, but generally speaking, those recommended amounts they are based on minimal sun exposure.
Right. Okay. So, for anyone who knows latitudes, we will tell our latitude, which is 22 degrees. So, guess which country we're in, and so let's go now into
the average recommendations and whether that's sufficient or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah. Those recommendations, they're not enough, in my opinion, and there is evidence to support my claims, and I will share those with you. There are more and more people that actually say that these guidelines, these recommended amounts are insufficient, so I'm not the only one. And the reason why they made that 6 to 800 is because they found that it's good enough for bone density. So remember, like that's one of the functions of vitamin D is to absorb calcium into and so gets deposited in our bones. So, but actually there is that's not really accurate, even just for bone density. And I will go over why just focusing on bone density might not be enough. The fact that for bone density it doesn't work is because studies done on people that unfortunately ended their lives prematurely through like an accident or other unnatural causes, they actually found that vitamin D levels, they checked the vitamin D levels of those people, and then they looked at their bone density.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that 18 to 39% or so of the people actually had bone demineralization issues, which is actually, if you look at their vitamin D status, it was right according to the recommended amounts, even slightly higher. So what does that tell you? It means actually those amounts can not be enough for just bone density. And then it's not just about bones, it's about like a variety of diseases, like our risk for cancer is increased, our cardiovascular disease risk goes up, hypertension, and what about our immune system? So these things we do need to consider, and that's why I would like to go over what may be a more optimal amount of vitamin D.
So, in my current supplement, it says 600 IU, right?
Right.
And you said that the recommended supplement is about 2,000. So, why 2,000? Why that particular calculation? Can you go into the math a little bit here?
Yeah. So, like I said, the study on the people that had bone demineralization issues, the people that died from unnatural causes, so they had vitamin D levels, and there's a measure how we measure vitamin D in the blood. One is we use nanomole, and one is nanograms. It's a little confusing because every country uses their own measurements, so I will just mention them both. The people in the study, they had about 30 nanograms or 50 nanomol, sorry, or 75 nanomoles. Okay, now the recommended amount, if you take 600 to 800 IU of vitamin D, you would end up around 20 nanograms or 50 nanomoles.
And that's too low then.
Yeah, that's lower than the people from the study. So they were on let's call it the higher end. Like if we have 20 to 30 nanograms, they were at 30. 50 to 75 nanomoles, they were at 75. If we look at the people that had higher than 75 nanomoles per liter or 30 nanograms, people did not have those bone issues. So if we look at different studies, like what amount of vitamin D do you need to take to get above those levels? Okay, so we know that's about 1,800 IU.
Okay.
Now, but like I said before, to take into account that vitamin D is not just for bone health, it is to protect you against a variety of diseases and to make your immune system work properly. So I cannot tell you the optimal amount, but it makes sense if it's a little higher than that due to the different functions vitamin D has. It's not just bone health. So it's a little bit safer to go above that. And then, but you can also not go too high because vitamin D can also be toxic.
Listen to the entire episode of the Immunity Podcast.
Link in the description below.